Bushy, thin, pierced, tattooed? No, not Little Mix. I'm talking about eyebrows. Eyebrows. Sweet, beautiful eyebrows. They can make or break a person. But did you know they can, in fact, save a man's life? Hair-raising stuff, eh? 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 How much better is this? That's better. Christ. Testing the sound. Testing the sound. This is me. Testing the sound. Chin chin. And welcome to another edition of Tales from a Turtleneck. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, and flick that little bell to be notified as soon as a new video pops onto YouTube. Hooray! Tonight's tale starts with romantic promise and comes crashing down to earth, figuratively and literally. My father had whisked my mother to Paris. Why? Who doesn't love the smell of urine and crowds? My brother, sister, and I had been left in the care of my auntie. Auntie Pooh, to be precise. Yes, that is her nickname. Pooh, Pooh, Auntie Pooh, Pooh. Not Pooh, Auntie Pooh, as my brother found out to his cost.
Hello, Pooh!
That's Auntie Pooh to you.
Auntie Pooh, despite being a wonderful auntie, had form for near-fatal incidents. On one occasion, a pair of scissors fell out of a cupboard right by my... Oh. This, combined with the fact that I was the clumsiest child. I mean clumsy. Super clumsy. I fell upstairs. My clumsiness literally defied physics. I mean, to be fair, I went from a clumsy child to a clumsy teenager to a even clumsier adult. But... Who falls upstairs?
Upstairs.
Upstairs. Upstairs. Upstairs.
Take 5. Velcro trainers were all the rage. I didn't have them because I wanted them. I had to have them because I needed them. Shoelaces were a risk my parents were not willing to take. In spite of my auntie's previous babysitting mishaps and the fact that I struggled to walk in a straight line, my auntie had planned a wonderful afternoon's activities for us. First, a trip to the local park. Then, we got to go to the stables to watch my cousin horse riding. The excitement! But it was a dream. A foolish dream that would turn into a nightmare. Now, an interesting fact about parks in the 90s is that unlike parks today, they were purely designed to impale, splinter, and maim children in as many ways as possible. And the park Auntie Pooh had taken us to was no exception. Whoever words come out in an order that people understand apart from myself. Whoever the park designer was back then was evidently a psychopath, because all parks were the same, each deadlier than the next, including our primary school playground. I once witnessed a girl trip over a piece of splintery wood and end up biting into her own knee so that she became fused to it like some sort of living sculpture, hopping about, impaled in herself.
The
park in question that Auntie Pooh had taken me to was located next to my doctor's surgery. A blessing, you might say. On any other day, yes. But it was a Sunday, and so it was closed. Obviously not wanting to take part in an activity that required teamwork or coordination, this Whatever this is. I slunk off to the top of the climbing frame where all the cool cats lived. Yeah. Once I'd reached the summit, I wanted to show those team-working, athletic toddlers that their big brother was king of the castle. In order to do that, I had to grapple with the fearsome fireman's pole and slide all the way down. Oh, God. A journey of about 4 feet. It's the principle that matters. In order to... why can't I say words? Shit and poo, take two. In order to get to the fireman's pole, I would first have to traverse the trippity-trap, tetanus-ridden wooden rope bridge of death. It was exactly like the one in Indiana Jones, except for the size, the colour, the location, and it didn't hang above a crocodile-infested river. Instead, it hung above a nappy-infested sandpit. And I know which is worse. But the fear of the bridge's many pitfalls was outweighed by the pride I knew I would feel once I'd got my hands on that greasy pole. Oh! And so, tentatively, I took my first step. Trap. Trap. Hop. I couldn't believe it. I'd made it to the centre of the bridge already, hopping over the missing plank like a Highland goat, not even minding that, gripping hold of the rope, I'd put my hand in chewing gum and smeared it all the way along. I was halfway across. The finish line was in sight. I'd slide down that pole and make my grand entrance to the applause of Auntie Pooh and every other child in the park. I looked dead ahead, stepped forward, and got my foot caught between 2 planks, tripped, and impaled my head on a bolt. Blood turned to ice, and I went completely cold. And a strange calmness fell over me, and the whole park fell silent. In my infinite wisdom, I pulled my head up and clamped my hands to my face. If I couldn't see what I'd done, then maybe I hadn't done what I'd done? That works, yeah? Yeah, that's how the world works. You can't see it, so it doesn't exist. Like herpes. How strong is this? Whilst lying there with my hands clamped to my face, I suddenly became aware of a drip, 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 dripping noise, and concerned that I was spoiling my lovely white Velcro trainers, I took my hands away. And that's when all merry hell started. Hello? It's gone. There was blood. Lots of blood. Lots and lots and lots of really loads of so much. A river of blood. Blood City. Blood spattered. Blood does the funniest things. My hands were saturated in blood, and I couldn't see out of this eye because the blood from my head had congealed, pouring down this side of my face. Not to mention the blood that had poured down my shirt, down my arms, both my hands and my wrists and my elbows. I looked like a crossover between the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Call the Midwife. I was basically a vampire's wet dream, and shortly after the blood, the screaming began. Because of this subtle reaction, Auntie Pooh knew something was wrong. It wasn't just Auntie Pooh that heard the screams. Some gentlemen from the local Indian restaurant also heeded my musical call. I have no memory of getting off that climbing frame, nor do I have any memory of leaving the park. The next thing I do remember is the gentleman from the Indian restaurant wrapping tablecloths around my head. Thinking upon it now, it did look like I was doing an offensive impression of the man that was trying to help me. I have no memory either of the short drive home. But, as chance would have it, we'd timed our arrival with that of my returning parents. They'd spent a romantic weekend rekindling their love, just like when they were first married. I'll never forget the look in my mother's eyes as the Louvre, the Arc de Triomphe, the Eiffel Tower, Croissant were instantly replaced by the searing image of her eldest child being bundled out of a car wearing a blood-soaked turban. Fuck! The real tragedy for me wasn't the fact that I'd gashed my head open and would need potentially life-altering surgery, but the fact that I wouldn't be able to watch my cousin horse riding, which in my delirium I still thought was going to happen. It was like I was being people trafficked, bundled from Auntie Pooh's car to my mother's, my brother and sister held for ransom to prove that 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Hospitals were still a new and exciting place, and as I sat in A&E, I was fascinated by the characters going on around me. There was one woman who was yellow, and that's not an Oriental slur, she was actually yellow. Simpson's yellow. I can only assume her kidneys have failed. Thankfully, I didn't need major surgery, just some glue, stitches, dressings, painkillers, and I'll never forget the doctor's words. You're lucky your eyebrows are so bushy. They probably saved your life.
I grew this myself, ladies.
I was back at school the next week, and it was summer, so the dreaded sports day was upon us. There's a video of me doing the sack race looking like some sad, gammy pirate. This will come as a shock. I detested sports day. By year 3, I only did the skipping race because it was me versus the girls, and I still lost. I'd become a patchy kid, just like the other ones at school with bad eyes. Why was it in the 90s that to improve a child's eyesight you forced them to look like a shit pirate to make the other eye stronger? There were just kids running around with black eyes everywhere because overzealous teachers had whipped the plasters off. Like all fashion trends, eyebrows come and eyebrows go. And lately they've returned, with a vengeance. Long gone are the days of girls plucking themselves to within an inch of their lives, because more is more. You know you've reached a certain age when the barber hints strongly that it's probably worth him giving your eyebrows a going over. And then you look in the mirror and realise you've turned into an owl. Nothing says trust in a relationship like when you allow your other half to tackle your eyebrows for you. You see that twinkle in their eye as that sadomasochistic urge takes over, the tweezers are in their hand, and then they go to town, extracting every single hair as a form of revenge for every single irritating thing you've done to them that day. Once the bleeding stops and you've regained consciousness, you look in the mirror and reveal they've turned you into an aerial photo of the Bornean rainforest. Decimated. It is said you can tell everything you need to know about a person from their eyebrows. Which, given my dating history, I wish I'd known. I could have died in my sleep. I couldn't really breathe. It took me an hour to get off the toilet. I hadn't needed to go when I got there, but as I was there, it felt like a waste.